7:25 a.m. on this Friday morning, February 20th, 2026. We are viewing through the screen meshing of the bedroom window once again, as I have been doing here lately. And this is our morning sky at this given point in time, and which overhead we are actually quite overcast. We are to be dropping significantly in temperatures in comparison to what we had yesterday going on here. The winds are already picking up. There is quite the chill in the air, if you will. The potentials of a mixture of rain and snow is to be coming forth. I really don't know if we had any precipitation overnight last night. Regardless of my content from yesterday stating quite often that we were to be expecting precipitation, areas to the south of us, I guess, has had some precipitation overnight. Something that's kind of strange in comparison, once again, to past recordings and again through this window, is the factor of the sunrise and the colorations thereof, because as you can see directly east, we don't have that orange strip of the sunrise colorations directly east, but way over here towards the southern section of the sky we do. Okay, this is very strange. I'm telling you what. And we'll go ahead and, can you see that back in there? Yeah. Very strange. Yeah, those winds are quite cold. I'll be headed out, of course, here another half hour to take care of the cats, feed and water them. But I gotta real quick make mention about this Obama-Trump ordeal of the UFO situation, and are these guys actually working together? Is this just another distraction from those so-called Epstein files and all that? And then again, Obama's making the statement that, well, there's no underground base under Area 51, and which is kind of conflicting to, what else he has stated, that, he really doesn't know this or that. Whereas, there's been so much predictive programming within television shows and movies, big screen movies, if you will, pertaining to the subject. And, I just... Okay, so just the other day, I'm watching past rerun of the television show According to Jim, with Jim Belushi, and of course, Jim Belushi being the brother of the past actor John Belushi, in which John Belushi, of course, was in the Blues Brothers with Dan Aykroyd, and because of that, Dan Aykroyd was tied in with Jim Belushi. And what was really strange is how within this episode that I was watching, they brought up the factor of UFOs, and which they also brought up Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and stating that it was under that base that, well, the aliens or UFOs were tied to that. And of course, it once was that anything that came into the airspace over the United States, and once again, I mean, I've got documented proof of this within a book, that if anything came into the United States airspace, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base was the first to know. And then ironically, you know, we had this New Jersey UAP flap that had occurred, and during that period of time, that stated base had been closed down. So, you know, you got to connect those dots in order to really read between the lines to see what's really going on. Very, you know, once again, it's very simplified, but highly complex, in which I believe that they're just going to make the situation that much more complexing, if you will. Now then, so what if the Pentagon actually comes out and releases files in which, you know, they prove that aliens or visitors from either outer space or other realms are real, and especially that of reptilians, okay? And I'm bringing this up for a specific reason, because way back in my history, I actually had a video, or do have a video on my channel, to where I am talking about a movie involving this dragon-like creature, if you will, and I believe this was from the 1960s, and it was called Reptilicus, okay? And thing is, even though I was not talking about a reptilian race of alien beings, I still was slapped with a banner, a context banner, underneath that video pertaining to reptilians. So, okay, let's go and take this a step further. So, if they come out and actually state that, oh yeah, we got proof of reptilians, which, well, already, if you know anything about the pterodactyls that they've come across, the mummified remains down there in Peru, well, you might even be able to link that so-called reptilian race to these pterodactyls, okay? So as far as I'm concerned, you know, and then the factor that Donald Trump came out, I guess it was on X, and actually stated the factor of, well, you know, we're going to release the information of UAPs and UFOs. Well, once again, that goes back to past content of mine, to where I bring up the factor that, hey, there is a big difference between UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, and that of UFOs, unidentified flying objects, because of course you have one stating just a phenomena, and then the other being objects, okay? And as far as I'm concerned, when it comes down to UAPs, we are talking military crafts, okay? All right? And you can go ahead and, you know, also bring up the little abbreviations pertaining to, you know, the sea-dwelling crafts, if you will, the USOs and furthermore. But okay, so there's a conflict of interest right there. Okay, but going back to the reptilians and these context banners, well, can we go after those that provided the false narratives pertaining to those banners, such as Encyclopedia Britannica or Wikipedia? Can we actually go after them for misinformation and disinformation being applied to our content? Right? And we are losing that orange coloration, but yeah, even further to the south, there is a little bit more back here behind this tree. Don't know how well we'll pick that up. Yeah, it's not even really coming out all that well. But yeah, let's go ahead and see if we can bring it out. Yeah. Once again, I don't, yeah, and that's fading off really quick. And you might be able to hear the winds are starting to howl out here. So I'm kind of glad that I did reinforce some of the structure for the cats out here so they could actually get out of this stuff for the most part. And already I've attracted the attention of one of the cats. She'll be making her presence. Yeah. Or, I'll be out in a minute, girl. All right? Hey. Go on back up to the woods. I'll be out in a minute. All right? Anyways, yeah, I'll be out in a little bit. So, now I lost my training of thought here. One moment, please. Oh, okay. Now we're back, and I regained that thought process. Yeah, I did get a little bit of sleep last night, so that is quite helpful as far as my mental resources this morning. But, so, let's go a step further. Isn't it quite ironic how, they're willing to bring out the factor of, these crafts and aliens and all that in the skies, but what won't they still speak on? Oh, how about the chemtrailing to the skies, huh? And all of this created weather. They won't touch that with a 10-foot pole yet, will they? And of course, they're not doing anything about bioengineered ingredients within the foods. No, in fact, Donald Trump is now endorsing the factor of certain pesticides. No, we need to keep using these pesticides. Okay, what pesticides? Well, how about we go to Bayer, okay? You know, Bayer and Bayer aspirin and all that, well, they are one of the leading providers or manufacturers for, fertilizers or something like that. Okay, you'll have to look into that yourself. It's been a long time since I've actually gone down that rabbit hole. But you must understand that Donald Trump, even though he has claimed otherwise, he is on the side of Big Pharma. Okay? And when you, factor in all of those that's been involved in that realm, and of course, he's come out endorsing Ozempic and it's a great weight loss drug and this and that. You don't need crap like that to lose weight. All you got to do is stop eating this stupid blankety blank bioengineered ingredients that's been, forced onto us through all these food products. And of course, we got all these genetically modified crops out there, fruits, vegetables, and otherwise, and they're all being treated with these pesticides and herbicides and insecticides and fertilizers, and we have no clue what is in any of that stuff. And yet, we're being forced into consuming that stuff and paying outrageous prices for it on top of all that. So, so we got this factor of the Golden Dome and of course the Golden Age that we're supposed to be going into, but of course there's the prophecies of Armageddon or World War III, in which Nostradamus has, within his prophecies, has claimed that, the Antichrist is going to start a 25-year war, and of course it's going to go back into basically being a holy war, right, between Christianity and the Muslims or Islamic faiths, and which now Donald Trump is talking about bombing Iran, and which he's, kind of going against or going along with, yeah, I'm trying to capture these geese back here, but he's going along with John McCain. Once again, bomb, 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 Iran. You know that dude? Uh huh. And the guy that gave his final little vote with his thumb down, that made headlines there for quite a while. Man, you add all this stuff up, and you start really seeing the bigger picture of reality. And if you even want to call our existence real, or of reality, when there's so many deceptions and so many deceptions throughout all of history, and so they get in talking, and then we also have to go into the factor of these UFOs and UFO abductions of people. Okay, so, well, as far as I'm concerned, a lot of those abductions was done through, the military-industrial complex, or certain branches thereof. Okay, and for experimentation on humans, and yeah. Already was Asimov, or whoever that weird guy is, that's insanely popular for his criticisms and all of that. Yeah, he didn't hear anything about this until he was, online doing a podcast or something, and then he looked into it and sort of somewhat freaking out, and it's all nonsense as far as I'm concerned, people, and it's all deception. Everything out there is very deceptive as far as our realities, and especially the realities of our existence, and there is basically a timeline that you can actually follow from the most ancient of information, and there is a linear timeline from those so-called gods and so forth. And once again, we have this brotherhood of the Dark Knights, I'll say, and then of course the Society of Secrets, in which I continue to and say secret society, which of course they're not, and which they are the ones that actually founded this country, or at least through that well, we're going into that 250-year anniversary once again, which is a lot of hooey nonsense, if you ask me. So really, it's laughable. I got to say, all of this is extremely laughable. So I got to end this. I am currently uploading content from yesterday, and still have long ways to go. I got 2 videos from yesterday that's coming out, one being a half-hour video from my time, the rest of the time that I spent out in the woods, and then following up with the sky observation after that. And then I can finally post this, but already the signals have changed here. This 5G crap is just nonsense, because I literally have to continue to search for proper signal in order to upload my content in a timely manner, and it's never timely anymore, especially ever since this onset of what is known as artificial intelligence, which is far from that. And once again, we have to also take that into consideration, how that plays into all this release of information, because once again, you got to go to my community postings to further understand, the information that I've been coming out with, to where even the Google search engine, aka Gemini, is kind of backtracking and speaking against its own self, as well as other AI systems, right? In which they are all linked together. It is the web, right? Okay, they once again, that's a little bit of deception, because they went from the web to the internet, okay? and which inter is, well, AI, because it is within this system of the web, World Wide Web. And of course, many strands to a spider's web. We got a squirrel out here that's already bouncing around back here amongst the branches. I just lost sight. Oh, okay, it's in this tree, the dead tree back here, and headed, looks like possibly towards the feeding tree. And of course, once again, this is, oh, yeah, this is kind of pathetic recording because of through the screen meshing of the window. And yeah, over here on, okay, yeah, it's getting out of viewing, but yeah, it just crossed over, and that looks like possibly blackjack. Okay, so now we are actually getting some of the orange colorations back here. And I really did not expect to create any kind of content of this length this morning. But as you can tell, I did get some adequate sleep because, oh yeah, my thought process has come back and in fast form. But I'm going to go ahead and end it here so I can begin to get around. Actually, I've already begun the process of getting around to head out into the woods. It's going to be a quick trip. There's no need nor desire to record anything out there. And with what we are to be expecting today, I don't believe I will be recording anything further. So, on that note, take care, one and all. Much love to one and all. And that is universal love of the higher consciousness to the whatever creator, if you will. I know I won't say God. Have a great one. This is Captain Morgan signing off, and Skywise. OWT, out.